and we're performing Love Over Law, the fight for interracial marriage.
We were born in Virginia, in a little town. I'm Mildred
And I'm Richard.
I love and change the world. We went to jail, fought in court. This is how our story began. We changed the law. And so this begins our story of our fighting for our love over law.
32 years after my death, my Mildred gave a speech on the 40th anniversary of the Loving Supreme Court case decision.
So when my late husband, Richard Loving, and I got married in Washington, D.C. in 1958, it wasn't for a political statement or to start a fight. We did it because we were in love. We didn't get married in Washington, D.C. because we wanted to. We did it because the government wouldn't allow us to marry back home in Virginia, where we met, where we grew up, where we fell in love, and where we wanted to be together and build our families.
You see, I was a white man and Mildred was a colored woman. And during this time, anti-miscegenation laws existed, which prohibited the marriage between white and black people in Virginia, our home, as well as many other states. Because of this, we had to go up to Washington, D.C. to get married, where interracial marriage was legal. But when we came back to our home in Virginia, where it wasn't. This is what made our marriage a crime.
And so, not long after our wedding, we were broken into in the middle of the night by deputy sheriffs in our own bedroom and arrested for the crime of marrying the wrong kind of person. Our marriage license was hanging on the wall above the bed.
After we were arrested, it was announced by Judge Bazile that Almighty God created the races white, black, yellow, Malay, and red, and but for the interference in this arrangement, there would be no cause for such marriages. He sentenced us to a year in prison, but agreed to suspend the sentence if we agreed to leave our home in Virginia for 25 years of exile.
So we left and got a home in Washington, D.C. We got a lawyer, and we still weren't fighting for a political statement, but just for our love. And so I had to struggle in such tragedies such as being jailed for a whole month without being bailed out, as Richard was bailed out earlier than I was, just for being colored. When we were tired of living in the city life, I wrote to the Attorney General, Robert F. Kennedy, for appointing me to the ACLU to volunteer. Attorneys took us in. I said we were married here in the district. We're forced to move from our hometown, but hated the distance.
I'm Bernard Cohen, a lawyer at the American Civil Liberties Union, and I received a letter from a Mrs. Mildred Loving. I decided to take the case, and my partner Philip Hirschkopf joined in just a few months after me. We knew that this was a case that we had a possibility of winning because the civil rights movement was also occurring around the same time, with events such as Brown versus the Board of Education, the sit-in movement, or the Voting Rights Act of 1965. However, our road to success was still incredibly difficult, as we had to pass through many different courts and had a very difficult time before our eventual success. Starting with October 28, 1964, we joined the Lovings in order to file a class action court case at the Eastern District Court. Unfortunately, they denied our request to vacate their sentences. On February 11, 1965, our case was denied by a 3-judge district court panel, and the Lovings were referred to the Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals. On March 7, 1965, it was announced by Justice Harry L. Rico that he would modify our sentences, but he still upheld them. This is when we decided to take our case to the Supreme Court of the United States, where we would go on to fight against anti-miscegenation laws as a whole on April 10, 1967. This is taken from the original court transcripts.
Number 395. Richard Perry Loving and Phillips versus Virginia.
Sit down. I've been an attorney for years. Who the heck brought these untrained volunteers? I've got wind under my belt. The Lovings broke the law. They're now criminals. You're gonna need to withdraw. Interracial marriage was banned for a reason. It's a form to support children, and it's just as bad as treason. It's bad and racist mix, and it's not just politics. I'm gonna win this case. This marriage causes conflicts.
When we win, this will go down in history, and that's because we know that marriage is a liberty. These marriage bans break the 14th Amendment. We're changing the law for our country's descendants. These laws don't punish black and whites equally. We know that they're equal. Civil rights happened recently. These laws first occurred near slavery. Now we're breaking them down with our sheer bravery.
Well, you say marriage is a liberty, but you're not right. I will spell this out for you. I don't care if I'm not polite. There are many reasons why this marriage could go wrong. You think you're going somewhere with us? I'ma play along. Would it be okay to marry your brother, or is it alright to marry 5 others? Should children of the mental also get married? Your entire argument just got buried.
Well, your examples are stupid and you're being racist. Your entire argument is so damn baseless. Interracial marriage isn't hurting anyone. It's not like wedding the disabled or your own son. There's no proven issues for kids of mixed race. At least not as much issues as there are in your face. We're all human. What does it matter if we mix? God put us all on earth while you cause conflict.
Jeez, are you really that incompetent? Almighty God built 7 different continents, made different races, put them in separate places, which shows he did not intend for them to mix.
Here we go.
Interracial marriage is a clear malfunction, and in societies and families, they cause dysfunction. This law is for purity in all races, not just white. Equal but separate, you're gonna lose the fight.
The racial purity thing, that's not for all races, just for people whose color is the same as your faces. Excuse me, Michael Wayne, could black and Asian marry?
Yeah, but that's a little arbitrary.
Well, on the contrary, they'd be allowed to marry, so it's not a law for all races, this is clearly said. The court doesn't care with whom a non-white will wed. This is a law for white supremacy. And dysfunction, knowing the loving it's not true. I talked to Richard, and he said to say something to you. He loves his wife. It's unfair they can't marry. They just want a life with no adversaries. These bans violate the Equal Protection Clause, and there's so much racism in all of those laws.
Those laws are realistic. Scientists have agreed mixed kids like animals aren't able to breed.
You're wrong, but your racism just breeds defiance. Get back to me when you have more than pseudoscience. You gotta concede, your talking makes me sick stop. I know the lovings have been freed, so I'ma let the mic go.
Woo!
Today, the United States Supreme Court handed down a decision. The Loving ordeal is at last over. Jack and Mildred Loving have won the right to be man and wife, father and mother in the state of Virginia. Anti-miscegenation laws have been declared illegal not only in Virginia, but in all 16 states that have held such statutes.
Lovings moved back home after the lawyers won to Central Point, Virginia, where they could move on.
Lived married lives without fear of their race. Richard passed 8 years after the court case.
Loving couples married under their legacy. Mixed couples finally able to move ahead, but the Lovings didn't want attention, they just wanted life and peace.
But they chose to fight a battle for thousands to wed, for couples to love freely, and underneath the law,
Mildred lived with their kids and made the decision to stray from limelight. Only once broke that tradition to support gay marriage and change love's definition, and they won. This goes to show
we're grateful that their lives are a story that we know. Loving v. Virginia can never be forgotten.
a law that matters for us and everybody that you know.
And this is love in between races, in between genders. She helped gay marriage win the Supreme Court case because love is love. This love, this love, this love, it is their life.